Hello, Facebook fans and YouTube fans of DX Engineering. It's Thursday afternoon here in the Eastern time zone of the USA. It's June 24th, 2021, and this is the Manufacturer Showcase. And our manufacturer is just getting things ready and hopefully will join us soon. But until then, this is Field Day week in the United States, and that's a big deal. And here's Patrick on from Geochron. Hello, Patrick.
Hello there, everybody.
And nice to have you, Patrick. We have our Geochrons in the background for both places. And what is going on at Geochron, Patrick?
Well, we're super excited. We're coming up on the deployment of our ham radio premium layer, which is coming up soon. And I'm playing stuff in the background that shows that right now. So I've got a few slides to put together if you got a moment.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll take you full screen.
Okay, super. I'm going to share my screen and open up the PowerPoint presentation. Hold on just a second here. All right, super. Hold on, just nearly there. Coming in, coming in. All right, great. I'm ready to go.
Okay.
All right, let me know if you see the words DX Engineering on the screen.
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. So let me give you a little bit of background about Geochron. This will take just a couple minutes about who we are and where we come from. I'm coming to you from my home office, which is here in Portland, Oregon. I'm sitting in a chair that looks like that. And so you can see the Geochron on the right and my workstation at the left. But the Geochron Digital is done out of some home offices here in Portland from developers and then myself, and then we load the units downstairs. Our Geochron mechanical unit is done out in Estacada, which is about 30 minutes outside of Portland in this small building. It's like a little forest town. And inside there, we build the Geochron mechanical clock. We've been building that clock since 1964. The clock, the inside of the mechanical clock, which the Geochron Digital comes from, it looks a lot like this, 300 moving parts, and is been featured in lots of different things, including has a historical purpose as a diplomatic gift that was used by Ronald Reagan and President Ford, giving it to the Russians when they first came over to the United States. In this picture, you see the original inventor of the Geochron. He's the James Kilberg on your right, and then in Reagan's office. So we've got a lot of history. It's been in lots of movies. You see James Earl Jones here posing with it at the Hunt for Red October. And we've gone on we continue to build these clocks. Now we restore more clocks than we build, but here's one that was a limited edition from a few years ago. This is a lawyer who rebuilds telescopes, and he has a super fine office and sent me a picture of his limited on the wall down there in Texas. So we're really proud of the mechanical clock. We restore about 300 a year and build custom about 100 new clocks per year from that little shop I showed you in Estacada. This is a super small business, and so we get interesting times here in Portland. We've seen ice storms, and this is a picture I took on the way to the shop when the shop nearly burned down as a result of a forest fire. This is outside the shop, and that's just smoke. So we had an interesting 2020 here, but we are cooking now, not literally. So about in 2017, lots of people said, geez, the mechanical clock is so expensive. What can we do we really want to enjoy that Mercator projection with the real time, with the gray line and real time and a bunch of stuff. So we came up with Geochron Digital. And if I could tell you what Geochron Digital is like Toy Story, right? So you've got Woody, who was Geochron Mechanical, and that got mechanical charisma. And then you've got Geochron Digital, which is like Buzz Lightyear. So let me just take you through a few things about the Geochron Digital. Just a minute. So first of all, we're super proud. Like, people send me pictures all the time of their installations, but this one is awesome. I've got this is astronaut Scott Kelly, and when he does his interviews, he's got one of our Geochrons in the background. And in fact, and I'm gonna just so we've got that. Now, the Geochron Digital has all the things I ever wanted to put on the Geochron Mechanical. So, for example, live airline flights in real time on that Mercator projection. Here on this screen, you're seeing United Airlines in the large picture, but also close-ups of UPS, who obviously has a distribution hub, and then Hawaii, that's obviously got a real destination in Hawaii, and then also the international ones. Any trackable flight is available on the Geochron, but we only do it by continent, or we do it by the we do it by the airline. We can't do individual flights because that would cost a lot more money. This just comes as part of the Geochron, as when you get the Atlas. We're also coming up on some new stuff like the earthquake layer. Here you see Australia and some recent earthquakes that have occurred around there. Super cool. And then, so we continue to build the mechanical clock, like I said, in Estacada in the back. And then also, you can see this is what it looks like on the inside. But this is really the guts. We took the guts of the Geochron Mechanical and we put it into the Geochron Digital. This is a lot what that looks like right now. A small little computer that is actually a Pentium quad core that can render in 4K, provides all the maps that come with anything else, including the ham radio map. And then also have live views, which feed about maybe 20 megabytes a day into the clock. So most of the stuff is inside the computer. You don't need an internet access to get all the regular information, like where the maps are and the gray line. But if you want live information like satellites, weather, precipitation, aviation, you'll need an internet Wi-Fi connection to do that, or Ethernet. So some more examples of what's on the Geochron Digital. And I'll get to the ham radio stuff in just a second. Here you see amateur radio satellites on a geopolitical background. You see the Earth at night. Where it's purple is where it's raining right now. The International Space Station and its live location. And also a little bit of population gradient in there. But the screen can get really busy, as I'll show you. Here's another example of weather satellites and their actual locations streaming across the world at 4 miles a second, 907 to 500 miles above the surface of the Earth. And then precipitation as it's occurring in real time, as it's collected by those satellites, is all viewable on the Geochron. And that just comes from buying it. You just own it. So we support that. One of the things we did, of course, is put down a COVID layer. Won't spend too much time on that. Another example of our aviation layer. This is United Airlines at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, obviously heading out of LaGuardia and LAX and looks like Denver. So it's super cool to see, and Texas. So it's super cool to see all of these patterns over time once you live with the Geochron for a bit. A big wide view of the Geochron is in front of you now. And a little teaser for the ham radio stuff I'm going to talk about in just a second is on your right-hand side with the solar weather. That should look familiar to you. When I took this screenshot, there were 7,721 flights above, and you can see all the flights that were above Europe in real time or coming out of Europe. You can see some of them are going into North America, South Africa, South America, at the time that this screenshot was taken. Like I mentioned, we have our big earthquake layer that's coming up. I'll show you all the earthquakes. Really good reporting in North America, and just the large ones like 4.0 and over in international regions. And then, of course, the menu with the last earthquakes. People have taken this clock and they've done cool stuff with it. This is another product from BRG down in Oklahoma that sells largely to the government with huge, like big LED displays that they're known for. But then they got their hands on a Geochron Atlas and they are now incorporating that into a cool, really hybrid clock that they are selling from their side. So it's really neat to see, as a business owner, it's great to see your idea and then people take it and do something cool with it that you never thought. I really, really dig that. And then one of our biggest audiences is ham radio. And so I get people of their ham shacks all the time with the Geochron up there. Wow, I have learned a lot about ham radio. So before I jump into the new ham radio layers, I also wanted to say that last time, Tim, I was on this, I got a lot of kicking around for not having a call sign yet. And I want to say I have been studying every night. It's right here. You can see I've been highlighting and doing the whole stuff. It's harder than I thought it was.
It's not that hard.
I got this in 2 or 3 hours. No, I'm like 2 or 3 weeks into it in like an hour a night. So I'm getting older. My working memory is slowing down a bit. But Anyway,
The questions are going to change on July 1st, so you better hurry up.
okay, I'm going to be done by July 1st.
There we go.
I think, yeah. So I'm super excited about that. But whenever I do talk to ham radio people, they're just like, "Why are you not? What's your call sign?" And I'm like, I'm working on it. You guys are great. I just didn't know anything about this 5 years ago. Anyway, so before I move on to the ham radio premium layer, do you have any questions for me?
No. Well, they said earthquake layer. Say what? Shut the front door. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Love the digital mode from DXE, of course. And let's see. What else? No real questions, Patrick. So keep rolling.
Super. All right. So for the last year or two, ham radio guys have been talking to us and asking, "What are you doing with the ham radio layer?" Because the Geochron is really perfect to be displaying this. Like, what about maximum usable frequency, like MUF behind me, or the or DXing? So let me show you what we've been working on for the last year that we hope to roll out to Atlas users within the next month. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen again. Just a minute. All right. Let me know when you see a black screen in front of you.
Yes.
Great. Here we go. So we started with the base map. The ham radio map should look familiar to you. On top of that, we add the gray line and all the stuff I've already talked about. But how about a way to upload your ADIF logs so that you can see all of your contacts filtered by date and time, by confirmed and unconfirmed, and then also in the standard colors of radio bands and stuff like that. So uploadable ADIF contacts. This is also an ADIF picture showing the contacts you have. Now they're arranged, the call signs, by the Maidenhead grid. So we can't show all of them. There's just not enough room on the screen for those of you who are really busy. But you can see we've, like in the center square here, starting with the KPO0P, we have another 83 that this test log has generated. But it's really cool to see a graphical representation. What people are doing mostly is that the Geochron used to be useful to come over and what do you do? What's this ham radio stuff? You've got this Geochron on the wall, and then you'll be like, well, let me explain this to you. And it was a great way to teach people about what your ham shack was all about. But this step with the ham radio premium layer makes it actually useful. So many of you might be familiar with dxmaps.com. They draw their DX information from a really old telnet network in which people share where they've been. Here's an example of what that looks like now on the Geochron and the ham radio premium layer. Down below, you'll see, let me go to the next screen. So the Geochron is perfect for displaying this kind of stuff. In the lower left-hand corner, there is a legend, which is the standard color legend, so that people can see what bands are open at what time in that moment. And this is updated about every 15 minutes. One thing that DX Maps doesn't do, if you're referring to them, is that they don't clear their cache. So you might have contacts that are there maybe 4, 5, 12 hours afterwards. That's my understanding. But Geochron will be eliminating those contacts within 60 minutes after they first appear on DX Maps. So it looks so cool to see the different lines of communication and the contacts flickering on the screen all day long. And when you sit down, you can see like, oh my goodness, look at that. Well, somebody's really busy down there in is it Botswana? That's, or like, oh yeah, RU2, RU1, RU, RD3K. I think I talked to those guys. So this is what the Geochron is really built for our ham radio guys. Again, the legend, simultaneous UTC time, the gray line. In the next picture, you notice that the color the map is either really colorful or it's in North America with the grayscale. And that's because we have a grayscale option so that the layers above are a lot easier to see. Here's an example of some DXing on the Geochron that shows in grayscale over the geopolitical map, also showing call signs. To give you an idea of the functionality of what that DX layer is about, here's the menu that appears. The Geochron operates just from a little handheld menu, a little handheld remote control. that I'm holding in my hand. If you can see my screen, just this little thing. So you can switch on and off these bands as you need to. It can get really busy. So here's an example of, okay, we've got ham radio map. The gray lines being shown, those little white highlights that you see over in India, that's actually in China. That's in population. That's where the lights would appear if you were going over an International Space Station. These are the satellites that are being shown. And we're expanding on our abilities to work with satellites because many of you are involved with AMSAT. And so we're going to have two categories. One is for FM and one is for linear. And then the other, you'll also be able to display the footprint of any given amateur satellite with the ham radio premium layer, as you can see here. So that's been cool. And then like the first thing everybody asked for, Tim, is they wanted their call sign. Like how I want to put my call sign on the Geochron. And so now for you, there it is. Now you can put your own in, but for Tim, this is yours.
Very nice.
Yeah, we've got solar space weather. Many of you are familiar with this. Why can't that widget be on the Geochron? Well, here it is. Also, planetary widget showing more solar terrestrial data. And then our aurora forecast up in the right-hand corner, too. That comes, of course, from NOAA. Lastly, we just wrapped up the MUF layer. So this is a little bit over my pay grade, but people who are smarter than me put this layer together. What you see here is like a topographical gradient line of the maximum usable frequencies that you can use to reach certain areas. And then the circles are recording stations that give you exactly that frequency that is the MUF vertically over the atmosphere at that time. And honestly, I'm going to have to do a little bit more studying on this before I write it up for the webpage because this is quite a bit over my pay grade. People send me pictures all the time of their ham radio installations. We're super proud of what we've been able to do, and I'm proud of the audience. This has been really great. Geochron Mechanical probably without Geochron Digital would have probably closed down by now. Just as a beautiful piece of art, but we're a boutique manufacturer, and it's difficult to keep that going on in North America in such small quantities. So it is a Geochron Digital that is the Buzz Lightyear of this whole thing. And we're proud that we're able to put Woody together too. This is a picture that is actually about a half hour south of me down in Eugene. This is a pilot for Spirit Airlines who sent me this picture. This is one of my favorites. And I think this was the contest winner from last year, which is one heck of a studio. And that Avalon amplifier, and I'm an audio guy, that is really over the top for what he's trying to do. So kudos to him. Really great displays. And I love the LED on the right. So we're kind of fans here. I get these pictures and then I pass them around through all the staff and say, check out what they did with the clock this time. So yeah. So Tim, that is what we've been so busy doing for the last year.
Man, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Let's take a look at the chat. And if you have a question for Patrick, now's your chance. Put it in the chat. And John says, Patrick, you guys build great stuff. Thanks for the moon phase layer. Looking forward to the enhanced ham radio layers. And so let's see if we have some other comments here. Henrik says, what is your chair brand? I don't know if he's referring to you or me, but we'll let him clarify that. We've got people on from all over the world.
I can answer that one actually. So that's the Verte chair from it was actually featured in the Batman movie. Okay. And so it's not the one I'm currently sitting in. I'm sitting on a stool so I can touch my screen back here without knocking it over.
Captain Jack says, Tim and Patrick, very interesting presentation. And John says, earthquake glare. Oh, yeah, that's totally awesome. Let's see. Love our digital mode from DX Engineering. And Huntsville Hamfest will have the Atlas for Saturday door prize. Yep. Thank you for the donation from Geochron, Patrick. This is from Mark Brown, N4BCD. And see, Todd says he's waiting for the new ham radio layer. And see, what else do we have here? John says ADIF log upload. Come on, man. You are teasing us, right?
Well,
And
I would, for many years, well, for the last probably a year ago, I just started getting on a lot of Zoom calls during COVID with ham radio guys who were really good at it and knew a lot. And I said, what do you want to see on the Geochron? And this is what we came up with.
yeah, Jeff says, I love my Geochron. Need to update the latest version. Sounds like a call to DX Engineering is in order. And let's see. Dawn asked the question, how do the new layers get downloaded?
Oh, sure. So the Atlas has, you can see it here, has a little Wi-Fi antenna, or it's got an Ethernet jack. So like I mentioned, it just takes about, and on a normal day, if you had all the layers running, it'd run about 20 megabytes a day on your system. So it just sips data. It doesn't stream data. Most of the stuff is buried inside the Geochron. Updates are delivered via Wi-Fi. They might be larger, you know, like 30 or 40 megabytes at a time, but our updates are usually monthly as we improve the program and also introduce new layers.
So, Patrick, do any of these layers, any of these new enhancements, are they just come with the Geochron, or do you have to pay for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So everything that I showed you up except the earthquake layer and the ham radio layer is free. The data and that comes with it is free for the lifetime of the product. What happened is that we realized that if we are supporting all this stuff for free and paying for the data in some places, that's a great way to go out of business. So that's why the ham radio layer and the earthquake layer will be supported by a small monthly charge. And when I say a small charge, we're talking, we haven't decided yet, but like single digits, like $5 a month or something like that. If you're an enthusiast and you want to be able to see that stuff on your Geochron. The reason why is because it costs money to push that data to you. And in some cases, it costs money for us to acquire that data. And also, I got 2 developers having worked for the last year that I got to pay.
Right. Okay. So when do you think you'll have that all put together, figured out what the charge is going to be, and be able to deliver it? I mean, our phones are already starting to ring off the wall.
Sure. The earthquake layer is out to my beta testers right now. So that means that we're getting really close to what's going on with the earthquake layer. I think that you should see the ham radio layer ready to roll out to all the users of the Atlas within a month.
Within a month, okay.
Yep.
And so how will users get notified?
Yeah. So if you go to our website, you probably already are subscribed to our newsletter. You can be sure that I'm going to be hitting the newsletter hard with when the new layers are available. In addition to that, there'll be a notification on your screen. So on the Geochron itself, up in the upper right-hand corner, that you'll need to dismiss. It says, we've got a new layer for you. Check it out. And with the earthquake and the ham radio premium layer, there'll be a trial period. You don't have to pay for it up front. You can try it out for I think we have 5 days is what we set it for. And if you like it, great. Then you can go ahead to go to our website and get that specific stuff right to your Geochron.
Okay. Dino says, oh, this is so cool. Now a reason to leave my Geochron on all the time. And John says, I was a Geochron fan before, but now I'm in love.
Yeah.
And let's see here. Jim says, have you looked into putting PSK reporter into the ham radio layer? The FT8 and digital guys would love that.
You bet. You bet. So we got down the road on the DXing, and then it was brought to our attention that the FT8 layer would be super great from PSK. So that will be the next improvement to our ham radio premium layer. We were too far down the road to go back and say, well, we got to bring in PSK. But I would say that as soon as the ham layer is deployed and we have some resources that are freed up as far as time, then that's the first thing we're jumping to is the PSK.
There's been a move afloat. Actually, there was a great presentation, and I will send it to you, that was done at Contest University last month on propagation. And it used to be that we would, it's sort of like weather forecasting. There would be space weather forecasting. Here's what we think might happen. But now with these tools, it's nowcasting. and it's live casting. So you don't have to worry about any predictions. You can see it right on your Geochron.
Yeah.
And so that makes it just immensely more useful. Andy says, is it possible to have the wind layer?
Oh, the wind. Okay, so the next thing that we've got a couple of more packages that we're going to tackle in the future. On my list is an enhanced weather package that will show wind. Now, you may be familiar with like windy.com, which actually shows like the graphic arrows, and I just think that is so cool. It's very difficult to render that in 4K in real time. That's why the wind layer, and there is a wind layer actually on the Geochron, but it's more of a color map as far as the speed of the wind, and it's static, and so it just updates that color map every 15 to 20 minutes. But in the future, as hardware becomes more affordable, or we take the jump to get more powerful hardware, which will be more expensive, then yeah, I'm looking forward to having animation. One of my personal favorites coming up is I want lightning. I want lightning really bad. All my developers know this. Where's lightning? I want to see tick, 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 tick all over the Geochron all the time.
Who sells the Geochron in Europe? This is from Sugar Echo 3 X-Ray in Sweden.
Sure. So we have a distributor called Purple Zebra that handles the UK and Europe if you want to work with the UK. And then also we have NIMAX, which is an astronomy store in Germany that are very active with both Geochron Mechanical and Geochron Digital.
Okay, so you don't have Martin Lynch or Wemo?
Oh, I do have Wemo. Thank you.
You have Wemo? Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Wemo is huge in Europe. So, and one of the K3LR operators actually is the sales manager at Wemo, Delta Lima 6 Lima Alpha United, Karsten. So
yeah, we've had emails back and forth.
Good.
You could go to you could go to geochron.com and look for international dealers, and there's a whole list of places. We just picked one up in the Philippines, and we picked one up in China, and we have two in Australia. But the digital product is growing quickly all the time, and so it's been fun to watch that progress, and certainly in Europe.
So Tim says, I love my Geochron USA Atlas 4K. Rob asks, what is the minimum size screen you can get by with?
Sure. First of all, make sure it's 4K, because if you put it on 1080, it's just going to look like watercolor. It's not going to be very clear. Like you see Minneapolis behind me right here, you'll barely be able to read that on a 1080 resolution. So UHD, no. 1080, no. 4K. Yes. And as far as size, we work with 42-inch here when we're testing it. You can read the stuff all the way down to about 32 inches, and it's lower than that, and it's going to be too small. It's even hard to find a 4K TV at under 32 inches. But I've seen them as big as 80, and I just want to start crying. It's so beautiful.
No, what I'm looking at that you can't see is my 84-inch.
Oh, gee. Oh, man.
It's the largest TV in the house, and it's 24 hours a day, Geochron. Yeah. And then behind me is that's a 60-inch Geochron. But that one, Patrick, I've turned on precipitation because sometimes when we're talking to like stations in Europe and they're not coming back as frequently, and you look over and you say, geez, there's a rainstorm going on. They probably have all kinds of noise. So it explains what, because we have that information live, it explains what's going on. And the fact that it really does rain all the time on the equator.
Yeah, I've never heard that. I love looking at the equator, and you can look into down like the Pacific Islands, and it's constantly just the water's warm, and so the air is rising up, and there's these thunderheads, little popcorn, all out throughout the whole year. These little popcorn things. You'd never know that unless you were a weather geek or unless you had a Geochron all the time.
Alex says, "Wow, I didn't know wind data was a thing. Good question." And Johan from Sweden says, thanks. He shops a lot from Wemo. So I think when Wemo opens up tomorrow morning, Johan will be on the phone with him and get one. And and Dino, KL0S from Virginia says, congratulations in advance for getting your license, Patrick. Dino
right.
is one of our bloggers. We have a great blog. It's onallbands.com. Onallbands.com is the DX Engineering blog, and it's a great place to learn more about the hobby. And John says, how about an active lightning layer? Well, we just talked about that.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure that's on your list. Well,
Yeah.
Patrick, I know you're a very busy guy. We really appreciate you coming on today with us. This has been a lot of fun, and I need you to come back maybe in 6 months.
Yeah.
Who knows what you'll dream of?
Yeah. They're one of the frequently asked questions that hasn't come up here. If you've got a few more minutes, can I address
Sure.
some of the model issues? So
Yeah.
there are 3 different kinds of geochrons that have happened in the last 3 years as far as it. So this is, people want to know what runs on what unit. So when we first started out, all the units looked like this, like a small sandwich. We call this the version 2. On the back of it, it'll say 4K version 1.1 or version 2. So the new premium layers are too data heavy for this to run them. The Geochron will, everything that this currently runs, if you have one of these, will run it forever. We'll continue to support it, but new layers will not be available on the version 2 devices that look like a little black sandwich. The Atlas 1 and the Atlas 2 is what we write for now. These are more powerful computers. This is the one that you can find. This is the one. Nope, this is the one. The one with the chevron here. This is the one that you could find at DX Engineering. This is the one that was put together previously. And they both do the same thing, except that the Atlas 2 is a little faster. So if you play around with the menu a lot, you'll be like, oh, I had an Atlas 1. I moved to an Atlas 2. It's way faster. And yeah, you're not making that up. It is much faster. Both of these will run premium layers, and will continue to. This is what we're programming for now, is the Atlas model.
Great. Well, yeah. that is fascinating. It's been a great half hour spending it with you, Patrick. Thanks so much for coming on and for being a part of the amateur radio community, even without a license.
Gonna get there.
We will be tickled to learn your call sign as soon as you get it.
You bet. I want it on my screen right there.
Okay. Until next time, Patrick, good luck to you. And to all the viewers, do check out the DX Engineering blog. It's onallbands.com. And if you need a Geochron, you know where to go. DX Engineering, it's on the shelf, and we'll ship it to you tonight. Until next time, the weekend special's coming up tomorrow. We have a special guest. So don't miss it. It's at 20 Zulu, the weekend special here on Facebook and YouTube. Until then, 73 from DX Engineering.
Bye-bye, everybody.